Hello and welcome to day 20 of my craft room clear out series. I'm Sarah Jane from Cards and a Cuppa, and today we're using the Be Thankful stamp set. Well, stamp. It is an individual stamp, but it's such fun to colour, so I'm really looking forward to using this one. I'm going to do what I had a tutorial on my blog, a photo tutorial on my blog, doing what I called a whitewash technique. So you'll need Whisper White Kraft ink pad. Obviously, I haven't done a lot of crafting for quite a few years, so my Whisper White ink pad is, well, I've just put my finger in it. It's still wet, but it's the ink has sunk. So I'm going to re-ink it. I thought I might do that with you first. So luckily I had a brand new bottle of white Kraft ink. So let's make sure that that is still okay. Might need a little stir, I think. I'll use this handle of this paintbrush. Because it's so full, I don't think it will shake together. So obviously the ink is still perfectly fine. I'll just clean that off with a wet wipe straight away and it'll be okay. And then it's as simple as adding some more ink to the ink pad. We won't actually be stamping with this today. It'll just be for colouring in the image. So like I say, the ink pad itself was actually still fairly moist. It had just faded into the foam, I think. So I'm going to add a little bit into the lid of the ink pad as well, ready to colour. But now the ink pad is ready to be used when I do want it. Just clean the top of that off before I put the lid back on. Now, for this technique, you need to, what I'm going to do is heat emboss the outline. I'm going to use copper because I still can't find my gold. So like I told you, Monday and day, what was that, 16. So I'm going to heat emboss that in copper, and then I'm going to colour it in white, and then you have to leave it for a few hours, preferably overnight. So I'm going to do this and then we'll come back to it for you in a moment, but for me tomorrow. So I'm going to do a single layer card, and because I want to just keep it to that one layer, maybe with a bit of thread on it, I'm going to stamp the image first in a colour so that I can use my Stamp-A-Majig to make sure that I get it perfectly straight. So I'm going to shaded spruce, just a dark colour enough so that I can see it on the acetate sheet. So I'm going to have to go with the biggest block. I mean, you possibly could do this without using the Stamp-A-Majig, but I think better to be safe than sorry. So I'm going to ink it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to be able to see where the image is going to be. Now I need to pop this stamp ink pad away. Let's clean the stamp itself off because we're going to ink in Versamark. So before we stamp, I'm going to use my embossing buddy to make sure that the embossing powder doesn't stick anywhere that I don't want it to. I'm going to ink up the stamp with Versamark. Then position the acetate sheet where I want it. Make sure it's straight. Put my Stamp-A-Majig handle on the acetate sheet. It's very close to the edge of that card. Okay. and then stamp my image. Lovely. And then I've got my copper embossing powder scrap card. Drench it in the copper powder. Tap it off to get the excess off. Make sure there's no straggly bits. And then heat emboss. So as that buckled a little while I was heat embossing, what I decided to do is trim it down and add this to the front of a crumb cake card base, just for a bit more stability. Back to the white Kraft. I have got a specific blender pen for white Kraft because it's almost impossible to clean off the white Kraft ink once you use a blender pen with it. So I do keep one separate for this. And then it's simply a case of colouring in the letters. Now what you need is a little piece of kitchen roll, and then just to dab off the excess. I tend to do a couple of letters at a time to make sure that it doesn't dry too much before I get round to dabbing it off. So this is where heat embossing really comes into its own for this, because if you just stamp this in a coloured ink, then it's almost impossible to stay perfectly within the lines. Well, it is for me anyway. You may be better at colouring than I am, but heat embossing just means that you have a guideline for it. And then my kitchen roll, just here, so just dab off the excess. Okay, so just to get the excess white off the embossed areas, and then buff that, and then basically leave that to dry, and I'll come back and show you what I make with it in a little while. So it is a few minutes later for you, but it is the next day for me. And remember, we heat embossed this in copper and whitewashed it with white Kraft ink. And so today we're going to colour it in, and I'm going to use Pretty Peacock for the thanks, Bumblebee and Cinnamon Cider for the little bee, and then some lovely lipstick for the little flower on there too. So I am going to colour it in using my Wink of Stella pen, just so that it gives a nice shimmer to the letters. The other thing you're going to need is a piece of kitchen roll to wipe your pen off in between colours. So just press to get some ink into the lid of the ink pad, and then I'm going to colour it in, colour all the letters in first. Oh, I need green as well for the leaves, so I'll use garden green for the little leaves, and then I'm just going to simply colour in these letters. I'm going to try and keep it darker towards the bottom to give a sort of an ombre effect. I will go back and top up the dark colours in a second. And just for a comparison, here's a scrap of crumb cake, and that's what the ink would look like if you just coloured directly onto the crumb cake ink. So it gives quite a different look. It's certainly much softer. And that's the bee all coloured in. I am just going to keep this really fairly simple, and I'm just going to add a little bit of linen thread across the bottom in a bow before I add it to a same colour crumb cake card base. And so I'm going to cut the card base at 14.8 and score at 10.5. And then I'm just going to glue that flat with Tombow onto the card base. And so that's today's card using the Be Thankful stamp set. It's a really pretty and now very sparkly card that I heat embossed onto crumb cake. If you've enjoyed today's video and are looking for different sort of inspiration every day, then please do follow along on Facebook and Instagram, and like and subscribe on YouTube, and you can come along with me on my journey to clearing out my craft room and using my stamp sets one more time before I say goodbye. So thanks ever so much for watching today, and I'll see you again on Monday.